It's been over 5 years now since my video on the AI conversation in Metal Gear Solid 2. Things have changed. I've come to realize I was seeing a lot of what I wanted to see at the time, but it also has a lot to do with looking at the conversation in the context of the full game. So I'd like to talk about the themes of Metal Gear Solid 2. First off, let's define what I mean when I say theme. There are generally two meanings for the word when talking about writing. The first is what Wikipedia defines as the thematic concept, what the work is about, usually stated as one word. I'd consider it more like the subject of the theme. This is the meaning Kojima uses when he refers to the themes of his games being gene, meme, scene, sense, peace, race, and revenge. But generally speaking, this isn't the meaning writers should use because it's fairly incomplete. If your work is about genes, for example, well, what about them? That alone doesn't tell you much. The second meaning is the one that really matters, what Wikipedia calls thematic statement, what the work says about the subject. Stories can be thought of like essays. Theme is basically the thesis of your work. What's the argument your story is making about a subject? Like essays in traditional screenwriting fashion, this is usually told up front during the introduction and returned to during the conclusion. It is also typically told to the main character by another character. The plot, characters, dialogue, and everything else are largely the supporting evidence or body of the work. The more these elements support your argument, the stronger the theme. Works can have more than one theme, of course, but a certain theme is always the strongest. Metal Gear Solid 2, I think, still stands as the greatest example of Hideo Kojima being not just the smartest writer I've ever seen, but also an absolute master of thematic writing. No detail in his stories is wasted in pursuit of his message. Well, with one exception now. So what is his message? In between the prologue and the main game, we get the epigraph, that is, a quote given at the beginning of a work, traditionally to hint at the theme. A staple of Kojima that is borrowed from film, which borrowed it from books. The function of this quote seems to make a parallel between atomic bombs and computers. This only has meaning when you know Kojima's position on atomic weapons, which was made pretty clear in Metal Gear Solid 1. They're dangerous, the applications of the technology are handled irresponsibly, and they generally shouldn't be used against people. He's saying this game will largely make the same argument about computers. The theme in Kojima games traditionally isn't outright stated until the end, though there are exceptions. Like in traditional screenwriting fashion, it's told to the protagonist who needs to hear it, whose struggle during the story was an argument about it. In this game, it's Snake who tells it to Raiden. I'll start with a selection of what he says.
Who am I, really? No one quite knows who or what they are. The memories you have and the role you were assigned are burdens you had to carry. It doesn't matter if they were real or not. That's never the point. There's no such thing in the world as absolute reality. Most of what they call real is actually fiction. What you think you see is only as real as your brain tells you it is.
At some point, a teacher of mine in a script analysis class told me that whenever you say what the theme of a work is, you should always frame it as something said in the story, word for word, which makes it harder to get wrong. The first sentence here is one of the themes. The next two sentences seem to be the two important supporting arguments of it that Kojima is trying to get across. The first one being, most of what they call real is actually fiction. In other words, most of what you're told is a deception. If the people telling you know it is one, it's a lie. Since Kojima's themes are relatively consistent, I think it's worth remembering what Eva says to Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3 about lies.
Coming here made me realize something. Half of what I'd been told was a complete and utter lie. The other half was a conveniently constructed lie.
Where's the truth then?
It's hidden in the lies.
With that in mind, let's take a look at how this is demonstrated in Metal Gear Solid 2, and it's a pretty long list. Pretty much every character in the game deceives someone and is deceived by someone, even minor characters. The opening words reveal the fact that Snake and Otacon didn't see the tanker mission for what it was.
The Hudson River, 2 years ago. We had classified intelligence that a new type of metal gear was scheduled for transport. The whole thing stank, but our noses had been out in the cold too long.
Then Ocelot implies they'll find out they were deceived.
He'll know soon enough.
But this might be a trap. Remember, there's a price on our heads.
You're just being paranoid.
I hope so.
The dialogue shifts to details about the ship, which Snake notices point to something being not as it seems, but Otacon tries to tell him he's wrong.
The military trains you to watch for threats from the stern on a boat. That's SOP for counter-terror ops, too. Security should be tighter.
You worry too much.
Olga first tries to attack Snake by using a false knife. Notice that this isn't even something in the dialogue, but it still reinforces the theme.
Not too shabby, is it? New York, I mean.
Otacon reveals that what Snake was told about the mission was true, but he neglected to tell Snake everything.
Snake, there's something I have to tell you.
What?
We didn't dig up this info about the new Metal Gear on our own. Not like usual.
Ocelot reveals that he's been manipulating his comrades.
Why are you here? We thought you were with the Colonel. What the? The Colonel will be joining you soon, comrade.
And when he reveals himself to the Marine Commandant, he talks about how Americans lie.
Excellent speech, my friend.
Who the?
Gift of the silver tongue. They say it's the mark of a good officer. And of a liar. Americans are too in love with the sound of their own voice to speak the truth.
Just before he double-crosses his comrades.
Ocelot. Have you sold us out?
I was never in your employ, Golukovich.
Are you still in league with Solidus?
No hard feelings, Colonel.
The opening of the plant chapter has the Colonel lie to Raiden about the incident that happened during the tanker chapter.
Snake, do you remember the sinking of that tanker 2 years ago?
Of course.
Terrorists blow a hole in an oil tanker full of crude barely 20 miles off the shore of Manhattan. Your classic nightmare.
Most, if not everything the Colonel says in the game, could be considered conveniently constructed lies.
What are their demands?
$30 billion.
If you destroy the big shell, you'll never collect your ransom.
Ransom? What are you talking about?
$30 billion in cash.
So that's what's going on, huh?
What the hell are you talking about?
Oh, you'll know soon enough.
Colonel, Fat Man didn't seem to know about the ransom demands.
Intentionally kept in the dark, I'd say. He seemed to be coming from a very different place from the other terrorists.
Fire the nuke, but it's nowhere close to the ransom deadline.
Ransom?
$30 billion in cash.
What are you babbling about? The nuclear strike is not a threat. It's been the objective all along.
Unless the demands are met, the terrorists intend to blow the big shell out of the water.
And the crude will ignite, turning the Manhattan Harbor into an inferno.
That's not the worst-case scenario. If the chlorides being used to decontaminate the seawater go up with the oil, toxins containing catastrophic levels of dioxins will be released. In other words, the bay's ecosystem will be wiped out, and the sea will turn into a toxic soup for centuries, becoming the worst environmental disaster in history.
How's Shell 2?
It's a mess. The bomb crippled H-Strut.
What about the toxins?
The what?
If the big shell blows up, the explosion is expected to produce massive amounts of toxins.
Never heard anything about that.
Huh?
Raiden, the terrorists have retaliated for our bomb neutralization.
What?
A hostage has been killed, shot in the head. They shot one of them on the roof, just to make sure we caught it. One of our satellites caught it clear as day.
Damn.
They announced they would kill one every hour from now on.
You don't think he's been like the other hostages? A hostage was killed in retaliation after the SEAL 10 disaster, remember?
What are you talking about?
The name of the leader of the terrorists is also a lie.
The name of their leader is Solid Snake.
So you're the boss around here?
No, not just around here. I'm the boss to surpass Big Boss himself. Solid Snake. No, that is not Solid Snake.
Then there's Snake, who immediately lies to Raiden about who he is.
My name is Pliskin. Iroquois Pliskin, Lieutenant Junior Grade.
But also states that because Foxhound was disbanded and his lack of being briefed, Raiden can't actually be on the big shell for the reason he thinks he is. Another seemingly minor line that has much more significance later.
That suit. Are you Foxhound?
That's right.
Foxhound was disbanded. Huh? You weren't briefed on any of this? And you came in alone to boot? Why? What are you really doing here?
And then Snake lies to Peter Stillman.
Are you two with SEAL Team 10? I didn't see you at the mission briefing.
Oh, we're with another squad. My name is Pliskin, Lieutenant Junior Grade. Honored to meet you, sir.
Notice that Peter Stillman suspects both of them of lying, but he's more suspicious of Raiden.
That man's no SEAL. I don't even think he's a Navy man.
What? Is he one of the terrorists, then?
No, somehow I don't think so. If there's someone to suspect, I'd put my money on you.
During the hunt for the bombs, Stillman thinks the bomb locations are a deception.
Unless, of course, we're missing something.
A trap?
He couldn't have overlooked the fact that I would be called into this. There's something going on.
Then he reveals that he lied about his fake leg.
These past 5 years, I've lived a lie.
Lied?
Yes, lied. I didn't lose my leg in the explosion.
Before finally being done in by Fat Man's trap.
I fell for it.
Fell for what?
Fat Man has my number. A proximity trigger. Microwave.
Fortune mistakes Raiden for being Snake at first, possibly because she was lied to in order to get her to fight Raiden.
That's not him.
Fat Man tells a half-truth about where his last bomb is located.
Where is it?
Somewhere in this area. Don't worry, it's very close by.
The ninja hides their identity.
Identify yourself.
I'm like you. I have no name.
It's also worth noting that you have to deceive the guards at this point by using a disguise, which reinforces this theme through gameplay.
You'll get nowhere just like that. Try this instead.
One of the terrorists?
Then there's the line Mr. X says about getting past the retinal scanner.
Nothing but the real thing will suffice. Deception is not an option here.
He becomes the second character to tell Raiden he's been deceived about his mission.
Nothing in this affair is what it seems.
Solidus reinforces the fact that Raiden can't be in Foxhound.
The man in the sneaking suit. You know more about those suits than I do.
But Foxhound was disbanded 4 years ago. So it must be the Patriots.
It's revealed that Olga was lied to about her father's death by Ocelot.
Don't cast suspicion where it isn't due.
Where it isn't due. When you watched my father die and did nothing.
Ames becomes the third character to tell Raiden he's been deceived about his mission.
Why would they hide Metal Gear in an offshore plant?
Haven't they told you anything? The entire thing was planned. The oil spill, the tanker accident that caused it, everything. The big shell was built specifically for the development of a new Metal Gear model. The inspection tour was to check its progress.
What's going on around here?
Before being unknowingly used himself.
You tricked me. I understand now.
Otacon and Snake reveal they used Liquid's body to deceive everyone into thinking Snake was dead.
What about the DNA results from that body?
That was Liquid's body. He and Snake are identical on the genetic level.
Liquid?
A deception, for our own protection.
Then, the president lays down the idea of the Patriots on Raiden and how the government of the U.S. is a giant deception.
Politics, the military, the economy, they control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
No.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth.
Also, the Wise Men's Committee is mentioned here.
All I've been told is that every key decision is made by a group of 12 men, known as the Wise Men's Committee.
But it turns out to be a lie later on.
They're already dead. All 12 of them.
When did it happen?
Well, about 100 years ago.
Vamp tells about the purified hydrogen bomb to Raiden.
Arsenal is still armed with a purified hydrogen bomb.
Purified hydrogen bomb?
Which we also later find out is a lie.
We've gone to a lot of trouble to set you up against the boy. That story about purified hydrogen bombs is just the tip of the iceberg.
And he says a pretty interesting line.
Insane. We might be the only ones telling the truth.
Both Otacon and Emma deceive each other about their actions, both about why Emma went into weapons development.
Answer me. Why are you repeating the same mistake?
I wanted to hurt you. I wanted to see you suffer. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought that with Arsenal, if I followed in your footsteps, I could be closer.
and why Otacon left her.
You abandoned me!
No, that's not what happened. I didn't leave you. Because of the accident, I had a relationship with your mother.
It's also worth noting here that Emma flat out tells Otacon she wants him to lie to her so she feels better.
I could never do that.
Don't be so honest. It hurts.
Sorry.
Raiden finds out that the Patriots want to censor information on the net to fit their own narrative.
With the newly created system, they can fully regulate digital information. High-level information can be categorized in stages, given clearance levels, and deleted as necessary, never to be seen by the public. By deleting such information, the Patriots can shape the course of history as they see fit.
Emma also tells Raiden how easy it is to be lied to if you lack first-hand knowledge.
Why? How would you know? Do you know what a gene looks like? Did you count them yourself?
There are research organizations.
Of course. And their reports have already been subtly altered. They're even beginning to believe the doctored reports.
When the virus is inserted into GW, it appears to have not finished uploading.
What the?
An antibody agent?
Damn! The connection's been cut.
Is the virus upload complete?
I don't think so. The count stopped at 90%.
But we find out that's not true.
I'm reading an abnormal impulse cascade throughout the neural network. I can't shut it down.
What happened?
Maybe some kind of virus.
And after the virus seemed to have failed to upload, Otacon lies to Emma and tells her everything's fine.
Will the virus still work?
I have no idea.
Hal, is everything all right?
It's all right. Everything's all right.
Snake doesn't tell Raiden how he's using him to get into Arsenal.
You're changing sides now?
Change sides? I don't recall saying I was on yours. Sorry about earlier. I had to use you as bait to gain access to Arsenal. It worked.
And Olga laments deceiving her troops.
I deceived my troops, betrayed them.
Ocelot comments that Raiden doesn't seem to exist on any database, yet again reinforcing the fact that he can't be in Foxhound.
NSA, CIA, FBI. He doesn't exist in any database. He's a non-existent operative from a non-existent organization.
Raiden reveals to Rose that he didn't want to be honest about his past.
Why didn't you tell me?
You couldn't begin to understand.
Rose in turn reveals she deceived him about their entire relationship.
I was ordered to keep an eye on you.
Keep an eye on me?
Yes, by the Patriots.
The Colonel is revealed to not even be a real person.
I think it means you've been talking to an AI.
And if you think about it, the famous fission-mailed fourth wall break sequence here is the game trying to deceive you into thinking you have a game over, even though you don't. Fortune doesn't believe it when Snake tells her she's been lied to.
I don't know what your group's been through, but let's get one thing clear. I didn't kill your father.
Do you think anyone believes your lies?
Solidus reveals that Raiden was a part of a program he didn't know about.
S3 stands for Solid Snake Simulation. It's a development program to artificially reproduce Solid Snake, the perfect warrior. The result is a Foxhound commando. When Foxhound no longer exists, a simulated Solid Snake shaped by VR regimen. Sound like someone you know, Jack?
Then Ocelot reveals a massive amount of lies about the entire mission, including the fact that Raiden's whole mission was a setup like Snake's.
Everything you've done here has been scripted. A little exercise set up by us.
Exercise?
The S3 plan was conceived as a means to produce soldiers on par with Solid Snake. That's what I told you. But the VR training the boy was put through is not the meat of the project. You think this little terrorist incident is your own doing, Solidus? This is the S3 training kernel. An orchestrated recreation of Shadow Moses.
What?
And even Ocelot seems to be confused about one detail.
All orchestrated?
Except for the appearance of the real Solid Snake. I wonder now who sent for you.
Though Liquid soon explains why.
Snake, it was I that leaked information about Arsenal to your partner and got you out here.
Solidus reveals that his motivations aren't what they seem to be.
All you want is power at any cost.
Jack, it's not power I want. What I wanted to take back from the Patriots are things like freedom, civil rights, opportunities. The founding principles of this country. Everything that's about to be wiped out by their digital censorship.
And finally, the Patriots lie and claim to be immortal.
We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
And then they reveal that even Ocelot lied about the S3 plan.
The S3 plan does not stand for Solid Snake Simulation. What it does stand for is Selection for Societal Sanity.
Raiden was chosen because of how easy it was for them to lie to him.
Solidus raised plenty of other child soldiers. Do you know why we chose you over them? It was because you were the only one who refused to acknowledge the past. This is why we chose you. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
And of course, even in the ending sequence, there are still some lies Snake mentions.
I put a transmitter on his ray.
Did he head for the Patriots?
Yeah, but I have a feeling they gave Ocelot a bogus location to begin with. This contains the list of all the Patriots.
But Ocelot took it.
The one we gave you wasn't the real thing.
These are just the lies I'm going to list for this section of the theme. Another thing that ties it to the idea of reality being fiction is the dialogue about people's reputation, and what characters' attitudes are about them is very telling of how Kojima feels about this kind of fiction. Stillman, for example, Snake builds up as important by reputation when talking to Raiden, though Stillman dismisses it somewhat.
So you're the bomb disposal guy.
Kid, this is the bomb disposal guy. Open any explosives disposal textbook and you'll see his name.
Just ancient history now.
Fat Man, by contrast, wants to become famous. In fact, it's his motivation for being a terrorist.
My ambitions are much more simple. To be the most famous bomber of them all.
You're nuts! No one's gonna give a damn about you!
Oh yes, they will. I'll go down in history as the man who beat Peter Stillman. That's the only reason I assisted this.
You're nothing but a common criminal, and that's the only way people will ever remember you.
How dare you! I'm an artist! I die here and start my legend. Too bad you won't be around to see the movies.
And then there's all the times Snake's own notoriety comes up. First, when Raiden meets him as Pliskin, he seems to say a line implying the line between good and bad fiction about people is very gray.
Right, and he was the one that sank that tanker.
But he's a legend.
Legends are usually bad news. There's not a lot of difference between heroes and madmen.
Then again, on the Shell 1, Shell 2 connecting bridge, he downplays the importance of his fame.
Okay, can I ask you something?
What?
Are you the Snake? They said you were dead.
No, not me. There are still too many things I need to do.
Snake, you're a legend, and that's why I need to ask you this.
Legend? A legend is nothing but fiction. Someone tells it, someone else remembers. Everybody passes it on.
After this conversation, Raiden brings up the in-universe novel about Snake and Shadow Moses, and the Colonel reacts angrily.
I read about you and Snake in the Darkness of Shadow Moses.
I don't give a damn what that piece of trash said. Do you get me?
The explanation for why the Patriot AI as the Colonel reacts this way comes later, when Snake and Otacon discuss why the Patriots framed them for the tanker incident.
Since the Shadow Moses incident, Snake became sort of a hero. I think the Patriots weren't too happy about that. They didn't choose Snake to be a hero.
So they decided to do a smear campaign.
And finally, the last conversation of the three that Raiden has with Snake involving his fiction comes in the Arsenal Gear corridor.
Raiden, we don't carry guns to take people down. We're not here to help some politician either.
You can say that because you're a legend, a hero. I'm Jack the Ripper, a dirty reminder of a terrible mistake.
Legends don't mean a whole lot. I was just a name to exploit, just like you.
People will remember only the good part, the right part of what you did.
There's no right part in murder, not ever. And we're not in this to make a name for ourselves.
Throughout these conversations about Snake's status as a legend, we get a picture of Raiden as very accepting of the fiction he's been told about Snake. Although it's more than just that. He constantly refers to Snake in all of these conversations about him as...
But he's a legend. You're a legend because you're a legend.
Which apparently in Raiden's mind is what gives Snake his importance, the fact that he has well-established good fiction about him. We can be sure that this is how he thinks at this point in the story, because in his third conversation with Snake about his fiction, Raiden implies Snake's argument about his motivation for fighting is justifiable entirely because he's a legend.
Raiden, we don't carry guns to take people down. We're not here to help some politician either.
You can say that because you're a legend, a hero.
And he's at a loss as to what Snake is fighting for when Snake says he's not out to make a name for himself.
And we're not in this to make a name for ourselves.
Then what are you and Otacon fighting for?
And in all of these conversations, Snake tries to convince him that essentially you shouldn't trust legends. In other words, don't trust the fiction.
Legends are usually bad news. There's not a lot of difference between heroes and madmen. A legend is nothing but fiction. Legends don't mean a whole lot. I was just a name to exploit.